Hello, everyone. Welcome to CXO Spice. CXO Spice is a platform for thought leaders to share their point of view on innovation and explain how to make it happen in real world. I'm your host, Helen Yu, and our topic today is AI open ecosystem. Our special guest is Vivek Mohindra, Senior Vice President of Corporate Strategy at Dell Technologies. Hello, Vivek. Welcome to CXO Spice.
Hello, Helen. Nice to be on the show with you. And I'm sorry I missed you at the event when we were there in person, but good to be here.
Yeah, likewise. I find your fireside chat at the Intel Enterprise Tech Tour very inspiring, by the way. It's such an honor to have you here with me today. So before we dive into our conversation, Vivek, please introduce yourself to our audience and tell us more about your role at Dell.
Excited to be here, Helen. So as you mentioned, I'm the Senior Vice President of Corporate Strategy for Dell. In this capacity, I pretty much focus on all the growth and value creation initiatives across the company, and they range from thinking through which are the new areas we should invest in, to working closely with our businesses and how to enhance our portfolios and our go-to-market approach, to anything else that may be relevant to the topic. So it's a broad mandate. And I took this role on about 17 months ago, having run one of the businesses at Dell prior to that. And I'm excited to be here in this role at this stage of an exciting evolution of the industry.
Well, you have quite an impressive background, Vivek, and your thesis alone, your PhD thesis alone could be another episode of CXO Spice. So I look forward to learning more about you beyond this conversation. So thank you for being here with us. Now, speaking of collaboration, can you speak to the strategic partnership between Dell and Intel, and how this collaboration is driving innovation in AI, particularly in the open ecosystem?
Yeah, Helen, I think as you heard me say at the tech tour as well, and then for your viewers, we have had decades-long relationship with Intel, which is very special and complementary. Obviously, as you know, we and Dell have a very broad portfolio which covers compute, storage, networking, PCs, software, data protection, very broad portfolio in the infrastructure layer. And Intel has huge strengths in compute and accelerating performance around some of these workloads that we execute around innovation in the silicon layer. So we have had a very strong partnership for many decades, really anchored by the principles of an open ecosystem, as you touched upon, and ensuring that customers have choice. So this has served us really, really well. Now with AI, we are at a really interesting and critical juncture in AI, as you know. We had unveiled a Dell AI factory, which is really aimed at accelerating the adoption of AI by enterprises. And with the expansion of Dell AI Factory with Intel Gaudi 3, we think really, really, really well positioned to serve our customers jointly. And just for refreshing, you heard me talk about it at the tech tour, but let me also, for your viewer, describe what the Dell AI Factory is and where specifically our partnership comes into play with Intel. So when you look at the Dell AI Factory, it really has use cases on one end, which is what are the use cases that enterprises want to implement using AI? And obviously, there's a whole body of work we have done, which helps bring some clarity to what they should be, but that's for another episode. And then on the other side, you have data, because these use cases use data to be able to bring them to light. And we deliver this to our customers through our AI Factory, which has three components to it: the infrastructure layer, the services layer, and an open and broad ecosystem to deliver this. And we partner with Intel across many layers of that. So just to give you some examples. So for example, our PowerEdge XE9680 server, which is the mainstay of the industry, we have introduced Gaudi 3 into it now, and it really helps execute all kinds of workloads for AI and Gen AI. And we have a partnership with Intel on that. On the AI PCs, for example, PCs are a critical component of the AI factory as well, because a lot of these workloads get executed at the edge, and frequently PC is the most efficient and cost-effective place to deliver that. And there we have a partnership with Intel, where we use the Core Ultra processors, which really brings this innovation to bear for our partners and our customers. So those are the product-centric capabilities and partnerships we have in Intel, but it also transcends that. For example, we have had a deep partnership with Intel on the R&D domain, where we work very closely in optimizing many of these layers of the infrastructure. We work closely with Intel in terms of developing solutions for our customers, focused on use cases like healthcare and manufacturing and those areas, which really helps accelerate the adoption of these solutions. And then we also work with Intel in providing community training and resources, so the community can adopt some of these solutions, really implement them. So hopefully you're getting the picture that we have a very deep and decades-long partnership with Intel, which is particularly relevant in the age of AI, because it transcends all the elements that are really required to bring AI to the enterprises, so they can adopt them at a fast clip and realize all the benefits, whether they be related to growth, productivity, or driving better experiences for their customers and employees. So we are really excited about our long partnership with Intel.
Well, that's fascinating. I actually, at a recent Dell Tech World, I got my first hands-on tour at Dell, kind of the solution where you and Intel partnered for training program, at least. So it's really great to see these examples. Thank you for sharing that. So what step is Dell taking to improve sustainability and energy efficiency, and how do these efforts help reduce the environmental impact of larger scale AI deployments?
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic, Helen. It's interesting to me. You talked about my PhD thesis. My PhD thesis was all around climate impact of semiconductor processing at that time. And I have now suddenly had to become an expert again in the energy aspects of that, because it is so pertinent to the question you raised. Energy and sustainability is hugely important and front and center to a lot of discussions I have, whether I have them with folks like you or government officials or customers. It's a really, really important topic. Let me describe how we think about it and how our partnership with Intel also works in this area. But before I do that, let me describe the 5 core beliefs that underpin our AI strategy, because they're really relevant and important to this topic. The 5 core beliefs that we at Dell have around our AI strategy, which is accelerating the adoption of AI by enterprises so can realize the benefits. The 5 core beliefs are: 1, it's all about the data. Number 2, it's better to bring AI to data than data to AI, particularly in a world where over half of the data generated every year is generated at the edge, and 83% of it resides outside of the big clouds. So transporting data to where AI and compute just seems very inefficient and not that secure and not very sustainable, frankly. So second core belief is better to bring AI to data than data to AI. Number 3, no one size fits all. We believe there's a whole range of models that will come into play: large models, medium models, small models, purpose-built models, general models, depending again on the use case. Number 4, you need an open modular architecture, because different layers of the architecture are moving at different pace. Then number 5, you need a broad open ecosystem to bring this to bear, which clearly is epitomized by our partnership with Intel in this particular case. So now when you look at sustainability of AI workloads, I always cite some statistics because I find them very revealing. So when you look at, for example, training, AI training, and let's assume you have a scale cluster, 100,000 GPU type of a cluster, you're looking at anywhere between approximately 1.6 terawatt hours worth of energy consumption a year. That's a lot of energy. Just by way of comparison, I'm sitting in Austin right now. The entire city of Austin consumes 14 terawatt hours
Wow.
per year. I was in India a few weeks ago speaking with the government officials in Delhi and Mumbai. In Delhi, which is the national capital region of India, that number is 22. In Mumbai, which is the commercial capital of India, that number is 35. So if you drop one of these data centers, or if you drop 8 of those data centers in the city of Austin, I don't think there would be any electricity left for anyone else with that at those scales. So if you compare that power footprint to a data center footprint where the racks now are 120 kilowatts, rapidly moving up to half a megawatt, and then you think about cloud provisioning of these two. First order of business is for companies to think about how to deploy these workloads in the most sustainable way so they get sustainable business outcomes. And frequently the answer for that ends up being deploying them in on the PC, for example, because PC is the most cost and energy efficient place to deploy it, particularly with the core ultra processors that Intel has and other solutions like that. That's the first order of business. But beyond that, what we have Dell and are doing is we're making sure that we are ensuring each component of this stack is as energy efficient as it can be within the broad rubric of where do you deploy it. So it first obviously starts with making sure that customers have the ability to manage and observe the AI workloads, and we are clearly playing in the manageability and observability space. But again, going back to the Dell AI Factory example I shared and giving you some examples from there, if you look at the PowerEdge 9680, we have spent a lot of time in the air-cooled version of that to make sure it cooled at higher ambient temperatures than some of the others in the industry were doing. So it provides for sustainability from that perspective. We are also leading the way in standardizing direct liquid cooling, which will be hugely important, particularly as more and more of these workloads get executed in these very power-dense racks. So that's one area we're innovating. If you look at our storage products, for example, it's all about the data, as I started as one of our 5 core beliefs. Data is stored clearly in the storage layer. And by some estimates, even last year, 10% of the data that was generated last year was because of Gen AI workloads. So storage becomes a really big and important consideration. So we're leading our way with the most comprehensive data reduction guarantees in the industry and use intelligent data reduction to make sure that customers can optimize the storage of this data layer. We also have software platforms like Cloud IQ and Open Managed Enterprise Power Manager, which allows customers to see through telemetry the energy footprint of this deployment and be able to manage that. And then continuing on, when you look at our PCs, our AI PCs are equipped with Dell Optimizer, which is a platform which is continually learning how a customer is using the product and then optimizing it accordingly to get the best outcomes from that based on its energy efficiency. And then another example is Dell Apex, which is a way for us to allow customers to purchase this factory or elements thereof in a more bite-sized manner and only, for example, what they consume. It allows them the ability to do that so they don't have to over-provision. We've also enabled customers, given them a choice of deploying these workloads in low-carbon co-location facilities that are powered up by up to 96% renewable energy. So that's another element of our Dell Apex story. And also, we have lifecycle services through Dell Apex, which takes on these products at the end of a lifecycle and effectively reuses them as well and recycles them as well. And that's the other sustainability part. And so there's lots of element of sustainability. And a couple of other data points to show how much of a leadership we are demonstrating in this industry on that. When you look at EPEAT, we are a Climate Plus champion there with over 200 products that meet the expanded criteria, which is the widest portfolio in the industry. And then we have more EPEAT and Energy Star certifications than anyone else in the industry as well. So hopefully you're getting the message that it has to start with where do you put these workloads more sustainably in the broader set of options you have that our customers have. And then even within that, we are focused a lot on ensuring sustainability and energy efficiency at all layers of it, be it servers, PCs, observability, through Apex. All of these layers, we are providing all of that. And in many of these, we are obviously working closely with Intel on that.
Well, that's really profound, right? You're focusing not just on one PC, but also multiple layers across all the entire portfolio. So kudos to your leadership and innovation. That actually is a great segue to our next to my next question. In what ways is Dell advancing AI capabilities in edge computing, and what innovative solutions are being developed to optimize AI performance at the edge?
Edge, as I mentioned, one of our core beliefs is, Helen, it's better to bring AI to data than data to AI, and half of the data every year is generated at the edge. So it's hugely important focus for us. We have a platform called Native Edge, Dell Native Edge, that we have had in the market for a while, but we have released enhancements to that to allow our customers precisely to take advantage of this. So with Dell Native Edge and our existing edge appliances, which support all major clouds, we think that's a very powerful combination that allows customers to really take advantage of the edge opportunities. So typically what happens at the edge is you run into multiple issues. You run into issues that you have a lot of different deployments or a lot of different edge devices that you need to securely onboard. Then you run into the issue of once you have onboarded them securely, then how do you manage them remotely in the right way and make sure that they're always up to date and always stay current on their security and other postures. And then you also run into the issues of orchestrating applications across these different devices and thinking about how to reuse these resources efficiently and effectively to orchestrate the workload you want to do. So edge deployment is hugely important, but typically runs into these kinds of shortcomings. And that's really where our Dell Native Edge comes into play. So Dell Native Edge allows for secure onboarding of all of these devices. It allows for remote management of these devices. And then it allows for multi-cloud or application orchestration around all of these devices. And then what we have also launched recently is high availability clustering of all of these native edge endpoints, covering our entire breadth of a portfolio. So for example, we obviously have our PowerEdge servers, which are part of these edge devices, our Optiplex desktops, which are a part of these devices, and then as well as Precision Workstations, which are part of these edge devices. So it really, the native edge we have released allows a customer to be able to not only remotely onboard them securely or remotely manage them, and then to do the application orchestration, but then also be able to do clustering or grouping of these endpoints in the right way to be able to get the most out of these endpoints. So that's one thing we have done on the edge. The second part, to make sure it's easy, because deploying these edge applications is also not that easy because lots of customers struggle with how do they stitch these different pieces together to extract what they need to get out of it. So what we have is we have launched, we have a library of over 55 blueprints, which makes it much easier for customers to take these blueprints and deploy them almost like an easy button deployment for native edge. And that also helps accelerate them, their deployment. And just to give you some examples around these, Moyo is a customer in South Africa who have used Precision Workstations to detect potato leaf disease. That is one type of an edge application. We have worked with them on that. And that obviously also has a sustainability angle to it, because if you can make sure that potato leek disease doesn't really propagate through the crops, then you can avoid wastage and having to take care of it after it comes about. So that also has a sustainability part to it. We've been working with native edge or nature fresh farms in North America on their deployment to help them improve greater productivity of the crops, and they have increased the acres under management by a factor of 8 on the back of these types of edge applications. We're also working with a partner, ATOS, around deploying these. So edge is hugely important. Our native edge platform and the blueprints that we provide with it really, really help customers deploy it, and we are very excited about that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing these impactful customer success stories. That really makes sense. I really love the easy button, right? The library of the 55 blueprints that just resonate deeply with me. Speaking of that, data security remains a top concern when it comes to AI adoption. So I'd like to talk a little bit about integrating sensitive customer data into AI open ecosystem. How does the Dell Intel partnership help address these challenges? RAG oftentimes plays a role in that too, right? I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, look, it starts with data, Helen, as you pointed out, and lots of customers do worry about security when it comes to data. There was an interesting statistic I was looking at recently in terms of how customers are thinking about data, and with AI thinking about repatriation from the cloud. And I was just struck by the survey. I think Barclays did a CIO survey, which talked about 82% of the CIOs were considering moving some of these workloads back on-prem. That's up from 72% a year ago, and that is up from a low point of 42% in April. And when I have these discussions with customers around what's driving it, it's interesting. A lot of it is being driven by data and security around data type of constraints, because they want to make sure that they preserve the most sensitive data in their own control. And it's also driven by TCO, total cost of ownership considerations, as some of these CIOs have done the math in terms of where to best deploy these AI workloads in the cloud, on-prem, or on these edge devices like a PC. They're doing the calculation and realizing it makes sense to move some of this data. So now, against that backdrop, RAG, as you mentioned, is really, really important. And Dell and Intel, we are collaborating around implementing RAG using Xeon 6 and Gaudi 3 to allow the customers the ability to use these models, but make sure that these models are anchored in their own data, both for security reasons, but also for relevance reasons, because RAG anchors a lot of these models and allows the customers to get the most business relevant outcomes that are relevant for their business. So RAG is a really, really important technique, and we are excited to be collaborating with Intel, again, using Xeon 6 and Gaudi 3 as a part of our portfolio to be able to help customers implement RAG.
Well, 82% is a really high percentage, right? I'm glad to hear the partnership really help address some of the main challenges here. Speaking of Intel Xeon, actually you mentioned that earlier. Can you discuss the role that Xeon has played in Dell's business and the benefits it has brought to the open AI ecosystem?
Yeah, look, Zeon, I go back to the opening of our conversation. We have had a decades-long partnership with Intel, and Xeon and Xeon 6 is now a critical proof point of that partnership and how it's bringing the open ecosystem to their customers. It is a top CPU choice for AI systems that need performance and reliability. It's very clear. And it has multiple characteristics that make it particularly suited for AI. So, for example, we talked about data. It's all about the data. For any kind of a model, you need the ability to process large volumes of data very efficiently. And Intel has spent a lot of time with this advanced multi-core architecture that Xeon 6 has to be able to allow for that. So that is really, really important. Second, a lot of these AI algorithms tend to be very complex and require lots of parallel processing to be able to get the outcomes you need at the time period you need it. Again, Xeon 6 has those characteristics related to ability to massively parallel process this data for complex AI algorithms, and that becomes really, really, really important. And third, as these workloads get orchestrated, it's really important for these workloads to be optimized, particularly for inferencing. And Intel's deep learning boost is a critical element of that, and that is a part of this portfolio as well. And then when we talked about security being a key element, and I talked about the data security elements of that, but clearly there's also the workload security aspect of that. So this is, again, another area where Xeon 6 has robust around both data and workloads, which becomes really, really important. So Xeon 6 has lots of critical traits which are really relevant for these workloads. Now, of course, I talked about at the opening how Intel and Dell are both committed to open ecosystems, and it's clearly one of our 5 core beliefs around AI. We believe, just like Intel believes, that there is lots of benefits of an open ecosystem. It allows for interoperability, and we know, for example, Xeon allows for interoperability across all kinds of software frameworks, including TensorFlow, PyTorch, and Apache Spark. So interoperability is a really important element of open ecosystem, and Xeon 6 provides that. And then there's clearly a second element is community and collaboration, and that is a critical element of that. And I know Dell and Dell's products with Xeon support an open ecosystem where developers can share their insights and tools to do joint problem solving. And third, of course, it reduces the barriers to entry. So a lot of small and medium business enterprises can have access to the same innovation and be able to leverage the benefits of AI. So Xeon, both from the product capabilities that I described, as well as what we are able to do jointly around interop and the interoperability feature that's provided, which also enhances the community and collaboration aspects of that, is really a key enabler of the open ecosystem in our view.
I'm very glad to hear, especially, the reduction of barrier of entry for smaller companies, right? It just makes AI more accessible. So thanks for sharing that. What are the key benefits of using Omnia for managing mixed workflows within an open AI ecosystem? How does it help prevent common configuration issues?
Yeah, it's really interesting how a lot of these workloads are getting executed now. Because in our view, Helen, we see a sort of a convergence emerging, convergence of high-performance computing workloads and AI workloads and data analytics workloads. They're all kind of converging in many ways. And what we're beginning to find out is it creates a lot of complexity for IT administrators and support personnel, because they've got to figure out how to run these mixed workload environments. And it becomes kind of complex because lots of times you have to manually figure out how to configure these, configure the clusters. If you have to move nodes between clusters because the workload requirement changes or the burstiness of various workload changes, that becomes somewhat hard because you've got to go and orchestrate it manually. So what Omnia does, it really allows a customer to take away a lot of these issues, and it automates a lot of these mixed workloads, both in Slurm and Kubernetes type of an environment. And at the heart of it, what Omnia does, therefore, it allows a customer to run any kind of a mixed workload very flexibly within the same environment. that is hugely powerful because it takes away the errors associated and the pain associated with the manual provisioning of these nodes and being able to move them to a different place. So Omnia Suite with a single interface, which allows customers to manage it, is really powerful tool to be able to run these mixed workloads, which all of them are pretty much mixed workloads at this point.
Well, that's amazing to hear, right? Thank you. Well, I can talk to you for another hour, Vivek, but in essence of time, I'm going to ask you one more question. And before we wrap it up, looking ahead, how does Dell plan to shape the future of the AI open ecosystem? What exciting innovations can we expect?
Yeah, it's a great question, Helen. Look, it's a broad ecosystem is necessary is one of our core beliefs around AI and accelerating the adoption of AI by enterprises. So we are very focused on making sure we continue to enable that. And that really starts with the partnerships we have across the board, including with silicon providers and partners like Intel and players who are working in the data layer and the model layer. We have partnerships across all of that to continue to ensure that open ecosystem. We are also continuing, we take a very customer zero mindset to ourselves, meaning we are applying AI for ourselves. We were one of the first in the industry to get started on this journey. We were not very vocal about it, but we started on this journey well ahead. We have thought about a lot of issues customers will face related to, for example, governance, data governance, AI governance, responsible AI, all of those elements of that mindset to our customers. And all of that really does require an open ecosystem. So we are doing things, Dell validated designs and 70 plus Dell reference designs that make it easy for customers to adopt it. And we obviously work with a broad ecosystem of partners across the board because we do believe open ecosystem is really, really important. And we'll continue to do that to ensure that our customers can accelerate the adoption of AI to realize the benefits related to growth, productivity, and any customer and employee experience enhancement they would want to make. So stay tuned. There will be much more to talk about as we go forward.
Yeah, that's I can't wait to hear more about that, Vivek. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I've learned so much from our conversation, by the way. But here are a few things that really deeply resonated with me. Number one is Dell's and Intel's strategic partnership in AI, not only from infrastructure perspective, also from service perspective. You talk about the solution you build in healthcare, manufacturing, and many other things you work together, also in R&D domain. So kudos to both of you for pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Number two is the 5 core beliefs that Dell has in AI ecosystem. Number one is the data. Number two, I love the most, is bring AI to data rather than data to AI. Number three is not one size fits all, right? That's really based on all the example you explained, really meet the customer where they are. Number four is the open architecture. That's, thanks for all the customer success stories and using, like how open architecture made a difference. Number five is a broaden open system. So those are really important. And then the other thing you talk about is about sustainability, right? The example you talk about, Dell is focused on making AI solutions more sustainable, not only to reduce the environmental impact, also with energy efficient technologies in larger scale AI project. Lastly is your vision, where we talk about some of the key the Intel Xeon processors and then Omnia, they both play a key role in the AI ecosystem. And then just really great to hear that it's not just about technology, it's also about the vision and then the collaboration, the ecosystem that can enable this AI open ecosystem here. 3 things, right? You talk 3 elements: interoperability, very important. And then there's a community and collaboration. Lastly is the reduction of the barrier of entry for smaller companies. So thank you so much for highlighting these important elements.
Yeah.
And thank you, Vivek, for sharing your valuable insights with all of us today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. Stay hungry, stay bold, and stay grateful.